r/MaliciousCompliance stepdaughter stole my car, so I got it repoed at her wedding. The tow truck rounded the corner of the country club parking lot just as the wedding photographer was positioning the happy couple next to MY vintage 1967 Mustang Fastback. The one I'd explicitly told Emma she couldn't use. The one she'd stolen from my garage anyway. I watched from behind a pillar as the driver consulted his paperwork, then looked up at the cherry red beauty that had taken me 3 years to restore. Emma was laughing, her white dress billowing as she posed against the hood like she owned the damn thing. Her new husband Jake was grinning, probably thinking he'd married into money. If only he knew. Sir. You the owner? The tow truck driver approached me, clipboard in hand. That's right. James Morrison. She's mine, and I want her back. Now. The driver nodded and walked toward the car. I followed at a distance, my heart pounding. After 15 years of marriage to Emma's mother Sarah, after 15 years of being treated like an ATM with legs by this spoiled brat, I was finally drawing a line. The photographer noticed the tow truck first. Excuse me, we're doing photos here. You'll have to wait. Sorry ma'am, but I got a repo order. Car's gotta come with me. Emma's head snapped up, her face going pale beneath her makeup. Repo? There must be some mistake. This is my stepfather's car, but... James Morrison's car, right? Yeah, he called it in. Says it was taken without permission. I stepped out from behind the pillar. That's right. I did. The collective gasp from the wedding party was audible even over the country club's fountain. Emma's eyes went wide, then narrowed into the familiar glare I'd seen 1,000 times before. What the hell do you think you're doing? She shrieked, gathering her dress as she stepped away from the car. This is my wedding day. And this is my CR, I replied calmly. The one you took from my garage after I specifically told you no. The one you've been lying to everyone about, telling them it was a wedding gift. Sarah appeared at my elbow like she materialized out of thin air. James. What is wrong with you? Stop this right now. But I was done. 15 years of Emma borrowing money and never paying it back. 15 years of her stealing my tools, my credit cards, hell, even my prescription glasses once when she broke hers and didn't want to wait for an appointment. 15 years of being told I wasn't her real father whenever I tried to set boundaries, but being expected to act like one whenever she needed something. The final straw had been last week when she'd asked to borrow the Mustang for her wedding photos. Not asked, really. Demanded. When I'd said no, explaining that the car was my pride and joy and I didn't want anything to happen to it, she'd rolled her eyes and said, whatever, James. It's just a stupid old car. Just a stupid old car. The car I'd bought as a rust bucket and spent every weekend for 3 years bringing back to life. The car that represented every hour I'd worked overtime to afford the parts. The car that was supposed to be mine. You can't do this. Emma was crying now, mascara starting to streak. Everyone's watching. You're ruining everything. The tow truck driver was already hooking up the chains, professional and efficient. He'd probably seen this kind of family drama before. I warned you, I said quietly. Actions have consequences, Emma. Time you learned that. The wedding guests were starting to gather around us like vultures circling roadkill. I could hear the whispers, the gasps, the shocked murmurs of, did he just repo his own car at his stepdaughter's wedding? Emma's maid of honor, her sister Jessica, pushed through the crowd, her face flushed with anger. Uncle James, what the hell is wrong with you? This is insane. Uncle James. That's what I'd been to Jessica for 15 years, but apparently family titles only applied when they needed something from me. Just last month Jessica had asked to borrow $500 for rent. Money I'd never seen again, naturally. What's insane, I said, my voice carrying louder than I intended, is thinking you can steal someone's property and face no consequences. Sarah grabbed my arm, her nails digging through my suit jacket. James Morrison, you stop this right now or I swear to God. You'll what, Sarah? I turned to face my wife of 15 years. Divorce me. Take half my stuff. News flash, Emma's already been doing that for years with your blessing. The color drained from Sarah's face. We'd had this fight a dozen times behind closed doors, but never in public. Never in front of her entire extended family, her co-workers, her book club friends who were all staring at us like we were dinner theater entertainment. James, please, Sarah's voice dropped to a desperate whisper. We can talk about this later. Don't humiliate her like this. Don't humiliate me. But Emma wasn't done. You know what? Fine, she screamed, loud enough that I swear the birds stopped singing. Take your precious car. I don't need anything from you anyway. You're not my father, you're just some old man my mom settled for. The words hit like a physical blow, but I kept my expression neutral. You're right, Emma. I'm not your father. Which means I don't owe you a damn thing. Jake, the groom, finally found his voice. Hey man, look, maybe we can work something out here. We'll get the car back to you tomorrow, spotless. We just need it for a few more photos. No. I cut him off. She had weeks to ask nicely. Instead, she broke into my garage and took it anyway. This is what theft looks like when there are actual consequences. The tow truck driver finished securing the Mustang and looked at me apologetically. Sorry about the timing, sir. Ready to move her out? I nodded, but before I could respond, Emma's grandmother, Sarah's mother, stepped forward. Margaret had always been the family peacekeeper, the sweet old lady who made cookies and remembered everyone's birthdays. James, Margaret said quietly, her voice carrying the weight of disappointment. This is beneath you. I've watched you raise that girl since she was 7 years old. This isn't the man I know. That one hurt. Margaret was the only member of Sarah's family who'd ever truly made me feel welcome. She'd been the one to walk me through family dynamics, to help me understand how to blend into their tight-knit clan. Seeing the disappointment in her eyes made my chest tighten. But then Emma laughed, actually laughed, a bitter, harsh sound. See? Even Grandma knows you're being pathetic. Just let it go, James. Stop embarrassing yourself. The laughter did it. After everything, the stealing, the lies, the disrespect, she was laughing at me. In front of everyone. Drive away, I told the tow truck driver. Now. The engine roared to life, drowning out Emma's renewed shrieking. My beautiful Mustang, decorated with white ribbons and "just married" signs, rolled away behind the truck like a prisoner being led to execution. And I stood there, surrounded by 100 people who now saw me as the villain of this story, wondering if I'd just made the biggest mistake of my life. The silence that followed the tow truck's departure was deafening. 100 wedding guests stood frozen like mannequins, champagne glasses half raised, jaws agape. Even the string quartet had stopped playing. Emma broke first. "I hate you," she screamed, her voice cracking. "I hate you so much. You've ruined everything." She grabbed handfuls of her wedding dress and stormed toward the country club entrance, Jake trailing helplessly behind her. That's when Sarah slapped me. The crack of her palm across my cheek echoed off the country club's stone facade. Several guests gasped. My face burned, but not just from the hit, from the humiliation of being struck by my own wife in front of all these people. 15 years, Sarah hissed, tears streaming down her face. 15 years I defended you to my family. 15 years I told them you loved Emma like your own daughter. And this is who you really are. A petty, vindictive man who would destroy his own stepdaughter's wedding over a car. Sarah. Don't. She held up her hand. Don't you dare. Pack your things when we get home. I want you gone tonight. My stomach dropped. I'd known this was a possibility, but hearing the words felt like free falling off a cliff. You're throwing away our marriage over this? After everything I've done for this family? Everything you've done? Sarah's voice rose to nearly match Emma's earlier shriek. You mean like keeping score of every dollar you've spent? Like holding grudges against a girl who lost her father at 7 years old? Like publicly humiliating her on the most important day of her life? Margaret stepped between us, her weathered hands shaking. Sarah, please. James, you need to fix this. Now. Go apologize to Emma and figure out how to get that car back here before. Before what? I snapped, my patience finally fracturing completely. Before Emma learns that stealing has consequences. Before she realizes that not my real father means I don't have to be her personal bank account. Margaret's face crumpled. That girl has been through enough pain, James. Her father died when she was a baby. You were supposed to heal that wound, not make it deeper. I tried. The words exploded out of me. For 15 years I tried. But every time I set a boundary, every time I said no, I was the evil stepfather. Every time she needed money, I was dad. Every time she got in trouble, I wasn't her real parent, so I had no authority. You can't have it both ways. Jessica pushed through the crowd, her bridesmaid dress trailing behind her. You're a monster, she spat. Emma is in the bathroom crying so hard she can barely breathe. Her makeup is ruined, her photos are ruined, and now everyone's going to remember her wedding as the day her stepfather publicly destroyed her. Maybe she should have thought about that before she broke into my garage, I shot back. It's a CR, James. Jessica screamed. It's a stupid piece of metal. She's your daughter. No, she's not. The words ripped from my throat raw and honest. She made that crystal clear. I'm not her father, I'm not family, I'm just the guy who pays for things. Well, guess what? The bank is closed. Uncle Robert, Sarah's brother, stepped forward. He was a big man, used to throwing his weight around at family gatherings. You need to leave. Now. Before I make you leave. I looked around the circle of faces surrounding me. Every single person, family I'd known for 15 years, people I'd celebrated Christmas with, shared birthdays with, helped move houses, every one of them was looking at me like I was a stranger. Like I was the enemy. Sarah wiped her eyes, smearing her makeup. I'll have your things on the front porch by tonight. Don't bother coming inside. Fine, I said quietly. But when Emma steals from the next man you bring around, don't say I didn't warn you. I turned and walked toward my truck, leaving behind 15 years of my life and wondering if I just won the war or lost everything that mattered. The drive home was a blur of red lights and second-guessing myself. My phone buzzed incessantly on the passenger seat, text after text lighting up the screen. I didn't need to look to know what they said. Sarah's family had my number, and they weren't shy about sharing their opinions. My hands shook as I pulled into the driveway of what used to be our house. 15 years of mortgage payments, of weekend projects, of turning this place into a home. Now it felt like enemy territory. Inside, the silence was oppressive. Wedding photos from Emma's engagement party still sat on the mantel, pictures where I stood awkwardly to the side while the real family clustered together. I'd told myself it didn't matter then. I was lying. My phone rang. Margaret's name on the caller ID made my chest tighten. Of all the people who could destroy me today, she was the one with the sharpest blade. Hello, Margaret. James. Her voice was tired, aged beyond her 73 years. I'm at the hospital. My blood turned to ice. What happened? Is Emma? Emma fainted during the reception. The stress, the crying, her blood pressure spiked. They're running tests to make sure the baby is okay. The world tilted sideways. Baby? She's about 8 weeks along. They were planning to announce it at the reception. Margaret's voice cracked. Before you destroyed everything. I sank into my recliner, the weight of this new information crushing my chest. Emma was pregnant. I just repossessed a car from a pregnant woman on her wedding day. Jesus Christ, what had I done? She didn't tell anyone except Jake and me, Margaret continued. Said they wanted the wedding to be about the marriage, not the baby. And now she's lying in a hospital bed sobbing about how her stepfather hates her so much he'd rather humiliate her than let her be happy for one day. Margaret, I didn't know. Of course you didn't know. Because instead of being part of this family, you keep score like we're all your enemies. That girl has looked up to you since she was 7 years old, James. 7. You taught her to ride a bike, you scared away her first boyfriend, you walked her to school when she was afraid of the older kids. How does that man turn into someone who destroys her wedding day? The memories hit like physical blows. Emma at 8, gap-toothed and proud, showing me the bike helmet I bought her. Emma at 16, crying in the kitchen because Brad Hutchins had dumped her, letting me awkwardly pat her shoulder while she ate ice cream. Emma at 18, hugging me after graduation, whispering, "Thanks for everything, Dad," before catching herself and pulling away. When had we become enemies? The money, I said quietly. It started with the money. Every time I tried to teach her about responsibility, Sarah would overrule me. Every boundary I set got torn down because I wasn't her real father. But every bill that came due, every crisis that needed fixing, then I was Dad. So you punished a pregnant woman on her wedding day because you're tired of paying bills? Put like that, I sounded like a monster. Maybe I was. I need to see her, I said. I need to apologize. She won't see you. Sarah banned you from the hospital. Security has your description. Margaret's voice hardened. You made your choice, James. You chose that car over your family. Now live with it. The line went dead. I sat in the growing darkness, surrounded by 15 years of memories that suddenly felt like evidence of a life I'd imagined rather than lived. Outside, a car pulled into the driveway. Through the window, I watched Sarah's book club friends, Linda, Patricia, and Susan, climb out with cardboard boxes. The packing brigade had arrived. My exile was about to begin. I opened the front door before they could ring the bell. Linda, Patricia, and Susan stood on my porch like a tribunal, their faces set in matching expressions of disgust. Behind them, Sarah sat in her car, engine running, staring straight ahead. "We're here for your things," Linda announced, pushing past me with a box. "Sarah wants this done quickly." I followed them inside, watching these women, who'd eaten at my dinner table, who I'd helped move furniture for, who'd asked me to fix their husbands' computers, march through my house like invaders. They moved with military precision, packing my life into cardboard boxes with the efficiency of people who'd already written me off. "The wedding gifts," Patricia said, wrapping a picture frame in newspaper. "Emma wants everything returned. She's too humiliated to face anyone." "She's in the hospital," I said quietly. "Margaret told me about the baby." Linda stopped packing and turned to face me, her expression shifting from disgust to something approaching rage. "Oh, so now you care. After you sent a pregnant woman to the ER on her wedding day." "I didn't know she was pregnant." "Would it have mattered?" Susan chimed in from the kitchen, boxing up my coffee maker. "Or would you have repossessed the car anyway because your precious feelings got hurt?" I wanted to defend myself, to explain the years of theft and disrespect, but the words felt hollow. Emma was pregnant. In the hospital. Because of me. My phone buzzed. A text from Jake: "She lost the baby. Hope you're happy." The box I was holding slipped from my hands, picture frame scattering across the hardwood floor. Glass shattered, splitting our wedding photos into jagged pieces. "What is it?" Patricia demanded. I couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. The room spun around me as I read the message again. "Lost the baby. Because of the stress. Because of what I'd done. James." Linda's voice seemed to come from underwater. "What's wrong?" I showed her the phone with shaking hands. Her face went white, then red, then white again. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Susan. Patricia. We need to go. Now." They dropped everything and ran for the car, leaving boxes half-packed and my belongings scattered across the floor. Through the window, I watched Linda lean into Sarah's car window, watched my wife's face crumple as she received the news. Sarah's wail carried through the closed windows, a sound of grief so raw it made my knees buckle. She collapsed against the steering wheel while her friends climbed into the car around her. They drove away without a backward glance, leaving me standing in the wreckage of my living room with Jake's words burning on my phone screen. I called him immediately. Straight to voicemail. Called Margaret. Same thing. Called the hospital. "I'm sorry, sir, but you're not on the approved visitor list. I can't give you any information about the patient." I was completely cut off. No way to know if Jake's message was real, no way to apologize, no way to help or comfort or even know if Emma was okay. The house felt like a tomb. Half-packed boxes sat abandoned like monuments to my spectacular failure. I'd wanted to teach Emma about consequences, and instead I'd caused the ultimate consequence, the loss of my grandchild. If Jake's text was even true. In my desperation, I clung to that uncertainty. Maybe he was lying, trying to hurt me the way I'd hurt them. Maybe Emma was fine and they just wanted me to suffer. But deep down, I knew. The timing, Margaret's call about Emma fainting, the stress of what I'd done, it all fit together into a nightmare of my own making. I destroyed everything. My marriage, my family, and now possibly my stepdaughter's baby. All for a car. I sat alone in that half-destroyed living room for 3 hours, calling every number I had, getting blocked at every turn. Finally, around midnight, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello. You bastard." Jake's voice was thick with exhaustion and grief. "She's been bleeding for 2 hours. They're doing everything they can, but the doctors aren't optimistic." "Jake, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Sorry doesn't bring back our baby." His voice cracked. "Sorry doesn't undo what you did. Emma keeps asking why you hate her so much. What am I supposed to tell her? That her stepfather valued a piece of metal more than her happiness? Can I talk to her? Please, I need to. She doesn't want to see you. Ever. And honestly, neither do I. You're not welcome at the hospital, you're not welcome in our lives, and if she loses this baby, I swear to God, James." The line went dead. I tried calling back. Blocked. At 2 a.m., I drove to St. Mary's Hospital anyway. The night security guard recognized me from the description. Apparently Sarah had been thorough. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you to leave the premises. You're not authorized to be here. Please, I just need to know if she's okay. If the baby." "Sir." His hand moved to his radio. "I won't ask again. I drove home defeated, but sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Emma's face as the tow truck drove away. The shock, the humiliation, the tears. Had that moment of stress caused this? Had my need for revenge killed my grandchild? At 6 a.m., my neighbor Tom knocked on the door. He was holding his newspaper and wearing an expression I'd never seen before, like he was looking at a stranger. Jesus, James. What the hell happened yesterday? You heard? My wife's friend was at the wedding. She posted the whole thing on Facebook. He shook his head. A repo truck. At your stepdaughter's wedding? What were you thinking? Facebook. Of course. I pulled out my phone and searched Emma's name. The video hit me like a sledgehammer. Someone had filmed the entire confrontation. Every word, every moment, from the tow truck's arrival to Sarah slapping me. The comment section was a cesspool of judgment. What kind of monster does this to his own family? This poor girl. On her wedding day. That man is pure evil. Hope his wife divorces him and takes everything. The video had been shared 800 times overnight. Emma's humiliation was now entertainment for strangers across the internet. Tom, I said quietly, she's pregnant. Or was. She might be losing the baby because of what I did. His face went ashen. Oh, Christ. James, you need to fix this. Whatever it takes. How? They won't let me near the hospital. My wife wants me gone. Her whole family hates me. And now the entire internet thinks I'm a psychopath. Because you acted like one. Tom's honesty cut deep. Look, I've known you for 8 years. You're a good man. But this? This isn't you. What happened? I told him everything. 15 years of being treated like an ATM, the constant disrespect, the theft, the not my real father comments. By the time I finished, Tom was shaking his head. So you decided to prove them right? You decided to show them that you really aren't family? I just wanted her to face consequences for once. Well, congratulations. Everyone's facing consequences now. Including an innocent baby. My phone buzzed. Another unknown number, but this time it was Margaret. She's stable, she said without preamble. The bleeding stopped. Baby's heartbeat is strong. But James, she's traumatized. She keeps having panic attacks, crying about how you must hate her so much that you wanted to destroy the happiest day of her life. Relief flooded through me, followed immediately by crushing guilt. The baby was okay, but Emma wasn't. And neither was I, Margaret, I said, gripping the phone tighter. I need to make this right. Tell me how. I don't know if you can. Her voice was hollow with exhaustion. Emma won't stop crying. Every time someone mentions your name, she has another breakdown. The doctors are worried about her blood pressure. I closed my eyes, trying to block out the image of Emma in a hospital bed, traumatized because of my actions. What if I returned the car? Had it detailed, brought it back exactly as it was? James, you don't understand. This isn't about the car anymore. This is about trust. About family. About a young woman who spent 15 years trying to earn the love of a man who apparently never saw her as anything more than a burden. That's not true. Isn't it? Margaret's voice sharpened. Because from where I'm sitting, watching my granddaughter question every memory she has of you, it looks pretty damn true. Before I could respond, I heard shouting in the background. A man's voice, angry, getting closer to the phone. Is that him? The voice was clearer now. Robert, Sarah's brother. Give me the phone, Mom. Robert, don't. The phone changed hands, and suddenly I was face to face with 15 years of barely contained resentment. You son of a bitch, Robert growled. I just spent 3 hours watching my niece have panic attacks because her own stepfather tried to destroy her wedding day. You want to know what she keeps saying? She keeps asking if you ever loved her at all, or if she was just some obligation you tolerated. Robert, I do love her. That's why I tried to teach her. Teach her what? That family means nothing. That public humiliation is an appropriate response to a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding. My temper flared despite everything. She stole my car. She broke into my garage and took it after I explicitly said no. She borrowed it, you maniac. She was planning to surprise you by having it professionally detailed and returned with a full tank of gas and a thank you note. The words hit me like a physical blow. I sank into my kitchen chair, the phone suddenly feeling impossibly heavy. What? Jake told us everything while we were waiting for the ambulance. Emma wanted to use the car for photos, then surprise you by having it completely pampered at the best shop in town. She'd already made the appointment for Monday morning. The whole thing was supposed to be a gesture to show you how much she appreciated everything you've done for the family. My stomach lurched. The thank you note. I remembered seeing something white tucked under my garage workbench when I discovered the car missing, but I'd been so furious I hadn't bothered to look. The note, I whispered. What note? There was something white in the garage. I thought it was trash. I was so angry I didn't. I was already moving, phone pressed to my ear as I ran outside to the garage. There it was, tucked under my workbench where it must have fallen when Emma moved my tools to get to the car keys. A cream-colored envelope with, for James, written in Emma's careful handwriting. With shaking hands, I tore it open. Asterisk, Dear James. Thank you for everything you've done for our family over the years. I know I haven't always been the easiest daughter to deal with, and I know I've made mistakes with money and responsibility. I wanted to surprise you by taking extra special care of your beautiful car and having it detailed as a thank you gift. I promise to be more respectful of your things and your rules. I hope when you see how much I've grown up, you might finally be proud to call me your daughter. Love always. Emma. P.S. Jake and I have something exciting to tell the family at the reception. I hope you'll be happy for us. Asterisk. The note fluttered to the garage floor as my knees gave out. She'd been trying to surprise me. Trying to show appreciation. Trying to bridge the gap between us. And I destroyed her for it. The garage floor was cold against my knees as I read Emma's note for the third time, each word cutting deeper than the last. My phone was still pressed to my ear, Robert's breathing heavy on the other end. You found it, he said quietly. It wasn't a question. She was trying to surprise me. My voice came out as a croak. She was trying to do something nice, and You assumed the worst. Like you always do with her. I wanted to argue, to defend myself, but the note in my hands made that impossible. Emma's careful handwriting, the respectful tone, the promise to do better, this wasn't the letter of someone trying to hurt me. This was the letter of a young woman desperately trying to earn her stepfather's approval. Robert, I need to see her. I need to show her I found the note, explain that I misunderstood. You think a piece of paper fixes this? His voice was incredulous. You think saying, oops, my bad, makes up for traumatizing a pregnant woman so badly she ended up in the ER? Through the phone, I heard Sarah's voice in the background, sharp and urgent. The doctor's here. Robert, hang up. I have to go, Robert said. But James? If you have any decency left, you'll stay away. Emma's blood pressure spikes every time someone mentions your name. The doctor says stress could still cause complications. The line went dead, leaving me alone in my garage with the weight of my catastrophic mistake. I'd been so convinced of Emma's malicious intent that I'd never considered any other possibility. 15 years of resentment had blinded me to what should have been obvious, a young woman trying to make amends. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Jake's mom. I was at the wedding. What you did was unforgivable. That poor girl doesn't deserve a stepfather like you. Then another, saw the video on Facebook. You're a disgusting excuse for a man. And another, hope your wife takes everything in the divorce. You don't deserve a family. The Facebook video. I'd forgotten about that nightmare. I pulled up the post again and watched myself destroy my stepdaughter's wedding day, knowing now what I hadn't known then, that she'd been trying to honor me, not hurt me. The comments had multiplied overnight. Hundreds of strangers weighing in on my family's destruction, sharing the video, tagging their friends to join the digital mob. Someone had even identified me by name and posted my work address. My phone started ringing with calls from numbers I didn't recognize. The fifth call, I answered without thinking. Is this James Morrison, the psychopath who repossessed a car at his stepdaughter's wedding? I hung up immediately and turned off my phone, but the damage was done. The video was viral. My face, my name, my employer, all of it was now public entertainment. An hour later, Tom knocked on my door again, holding a printed email. This came to your work address, he said grimly. Someone at the office forwarded it to me. The email was from my boss, brief and to the point, James, effective immediately, you're suspended pending investigation into the incident that has brought negative attention to our company. HR will be in touch regarding next steps. I was losing everything. My family, my home, and now my job, all because I'd been too proud and angry to consider that Emma might have good intentions. There's more, Tom said reluctantly. Channel 7 News called. They want to interview you about the video. Apparently, they're doing a story on wedding day disasters for tomorrow night's broadcast. The local news. My humiliation was about to become primetime entertainment for the entire city. Tom, I said desperately, I found a note. Emma was trying to surprise me. She wasn't stealing the car, she was planning to have it detailed as a thank you gift. His expression softened slightly, but not enough. That changes things, but not everything. The damage is done, James. That girl is traumatized, your marriage is over, and now you're about to become the most hated man in the city. Through my front window, I saw a news van pulling up to the curb. The news van's door slammed shut like a gunshot, and suddenly my front yard turned into a circus. A perfectly coiffed reporter in a red blazer strode up my driveway like she owned the place, followed by a cameraman who was already filming. I ducked away from the window, but it was too late. Through the glass, I heard her practicing her lead. This is the house where James Morrison planned the most vindictive act of stepfather revenge ever caught on camera. My doorbell rang. Then rang again. Then someone started pounding. Mr. Morrison. Channel 7 News. We'd like to get your side of the story. I pressed my back against the door, heart hammering. Tom had disappeared, probably not wanting to get caught in the crossfire. Smart man. Mr. Morrison, we know you're in there. Your neighbors confirmed you haven't left the house. My neighbors. Of course they were talking to my neighbors. Mrs. Henderson from across the street had probably given them a full character assassination. She'd never liked me anyway, always complaining about my motorcycle being too loud on Sunday mornings. The pounding stopped, but I could hear voices outside, the reporter interviewing someone. I crept to the side window and peered through the blinds. She had her microphone pointed at old Mr. Peterson from 2 houses down. Oh yes, there were always problems with that family, Peterson was saying, clearly enjoying his moment in the spotlight. Lot of shouting, lot of drama. That poor woman, trying to hold everything together while he trailed off, making some gesture I couldn't see. Whatever he was implying, it wasn't flattering. My phone, still turned off, sat on the kitchen counter like a bomb waiting to explode. I knew the moment I powered it back on, I'd be flooded with more hate messages, more threats, more people who'd seen the video and decided I was the villain in their personal entertainment. But I needed to know what was happening with Emma. The baby. Whether she was still in the hospital, whether the stress had caused more complications. The not knowing was eating me alive. I turned the phone on. Immediately, it started buzzing with notifications, missed calls, texts, voicemails, Facebook messages. The numbers were staggering. Hundreds of messages from complete strangers. Buried in the avalanche was a text from Margaret, sent an hour ago, Emma asking for sleeping pills. Can't stop crying. Doctors considering sedation if her anxiety doesn't improve. This is your fault. Sedation. They were talking about sedating Emma because she was so traumatized by what I'd done. A pregnant woman, my stepdaughter who I'd helped raise, who'd called me dad when she was scared or hurt, and now she was so distressed they might have to drug her into unconsciousness. Another message, this one from Sarah, divorce papers being filed Monday. Don't contest it. You'll lose. And then, like a knife to the chest, one from Emma's phone, but clearly written by Jake, she wanted me to tell you that she never wants to see you again. She's deleting every photo with you in it. As far as she's concerned, you were never her father. Congratulations. You got what you always wanted. The cruelest part was that he was wrong. I hadn't wanted this. I'd wanted respect, boundaries, acknowledgement, but not this. Never this complete destruction of everything I'd spent 15 years building. Outside, I heard the news van start up, but my relief was short-lived. Through the window, I watched them park across the street, settling in for what looked like a long surveillance. The reporter was on her phone, probably calling in reinforcements or arranging for the evening broadcast. By tonight, my face would be on every TV in the city, branded as the monster who destroyed his pregnant stepdaughter's wedding day. And the worst part? They wouldn't be wrong. I slumped against my kitchen counter, surrounded by half-packed boxes and the ruins of my life, wondering if there was any way back from this hell I'd created. At 3 p.m., the second news van arrived. Then the third. I watched through my blinds as my quiet suburban street transformed into a media-feeding frenzy. Reporters were interviewing anyone who'd talk, neighbors, joggers, even the mailman. They'd turned my personal nightmare into a circus, and I was the main attraction trapped in my own house. My work phone started ringing. Then my personal cell. Then my landline that I'd forgotten I still had. The cacophony was driving me insane, but I couldn't turn anything off completely. What if Margaret called with news about Emma? What if something happened to the baby? I was trapped between needing information and being destroyed by it. Around 4 p.m., I heard cars pulling into my driveway. Multiple cars. Through the peephole, I saw something that made my blood freeze, Emma's entire extended family. Sarah's siblings, her parents, cousins I barely recognized. They'd formed what looked like a delegation of fury, marching toward my front door like an army. The doorbell rang once. Then Robert's voice boomed through the wood, "James. Open this door right now, or I'm opening it myself." I knew he had a key. Sarah had given one to her brother years ago for emergencies. This apparently qualified. I opened the door to find 12 of the angriest faces I'd ever seen. Margaret stood at the front, her usual gentle demeanor replaced by something that looked like barely contained violence. "You," she said, pointing a trembling finger at me, "are going to fix this. Today. Right now." Behind her, Uncle Robert cracked his knuckles. "Emma's having a complete breakdown. She's convinced that 15 years of her life were a lie, that you never loved her, that every nice thing you ever did was fake. That's not true." "Shut up." Sarah's sister Linda stepped forward. "You don't get to talk. You get to listen. Emma is asking to be sedated because she can't stop the panic attacks. Every time she closes her eyes, she sees you standing there while the truck drives away with her dignity." Margaret pulled out her phone, showing me a photo that made my knees weak. Emma in a hospital bed, her face swollen from crying, staring at nothing with dead eyes. She looked broken. Completely, utterly broken. "She keeps saying she must be a terrible person for you to hate her that much," Margaret continued. "She's rewriting every memory she has of you, convinced it was all pretense." "I found the note," I said desperately. "The thank you note she left. I know she was trying to surprise me." "Too little, too late," Robert snarled. "You want to fix this? Here's how it's going to work. You're going to buy her a new car, a better car. You're going to pay for the wedding do-over. You're going to publicly apologize on every news station that aired this story. And you're going to beg her forgiveness on your hands and knees." "Robert," I said quietly, "I'll do anything. But first I need to know, is the baby okay?" The silence that followed was deafening. Everyone exchanged looks I couldn't interpret. "What baby?" Margaret asked softly. My world tilted. "Jake said, he texted me that she lost." "There is no baby, James." Margaret's voice was gentle now, pitying. "There never was. Jake lied to you. He wanted you to suffer the way you made Emma suffer. The psychological punishment. Jake had made me believe I'd killed my grandchild, had let me spend hours drowning in guilt over a pregnancy that didn't exist. The cruelty of it was breathtaking. But also, relief. There was no dead baby. No blood on my hands from that ultimate consequence. However, Margaret continued, Emma doesn't know Jake lied to you. She thinks you believed she was pregnant when you did this. She thinks you were willing to traumatize a pregnant woman for revenge. The relief evaporated instantly. Somehow, this was worse than the lie. The family delegation stood in my doorway like a tribunal, and I could see the exact moment they realized I believed Jake's lie about the pregnancy. Margaret's expression shifted from anger to something approaching pity, while Robert just looked disgusted. "You actually thought she was pregnant," Linda said slowly. "And you still don't understand why that makes this worse?" Before I could answer, my phone rang. The ringtone echoed loudly in the tense silence. It was my lawyer, David Chin. I'd called him earlier but hadn't expected to hear back so quickly. "I need to take this," I said, stepping back into the house. The family followed me inside without invitation, settling into my living room like they were planning an occupation. "James," David's voice was grim. "We have problems. Multiple problems. First, your employer is considering termination for bringing negative publicity to the company. Second, someone leaked your home address online and you're getting death threats. Third, and this is the big one, Emma's considering filing charges." My stomach dropped. Charges? For what? Theft, emotional distress, maybe harassment. The district attorney's office called my partner this morning. Apparently, the video has them under pressure to make an example of you. I looked around my living room at Sarah's family, all of them watching me with predatory attention. They could hear every word of this conversation, and their expressions were getting darker by the minute. "David, there's more. I found a note. Emma was trying to surprise me. She wasn't stealing the car." "That actually makes your situation worse," David said carefully. "It establishes that you acted maliciously without justification. If this goes to court, that note becomes evidence of your unreasonable response to an innocent gesture." Margaret stood up from my couch, her face flushed with new anger. You hear that? She called out loudly enough for David to hear through the phone. Even your lawyer thinks you're a monster. Ma'am, David's voice came through the speaker. I don't know who that is, but you shouldn't be discussing legal matters in front of. This is Emma's grandmother, Margaret interrupted. And I want you to know that we're prepared to pursue this to the fullest extent of the law. That man traumatized my granddaughter so badly she's under medical supervision. I could hear David sighing on the other end. James, I'm going to need to see you first thing Monday morning. Don't talk to the media, don't contact Emma or her family, and whatever you do, don't make any public statements. This situation is already volatile enough. As I hung up, Robert leaned forward in his chair, a predatory smile spreading across his face. Sounds like you're in some serious legal trouble, Jimmy boy. Criminal charges, job loss, public humiliation, how's that revenge working out for you? Through my front window, I could see the news vans multiplying. There were at least 5 now, and reporters were setting up what looked like a permanent camp across the street. One of them was interviewing Mrs. Henderson, who was gesticulating wildly toward my house. There's something else, Uncle Robert continued, pulling out his own phone. Emma asked me to show you this. He turned the screen toward me, revealing Emma's Facebook page. Where there had once been hundreds of photos spanning 15 years, birthday parties, family vacations, graduation ceremonies, holidays where I played stepdad, there was now almost nothing. Every picture with me in it had been deleted. 15 years of memories, gone. But worse than the deleted photos were the new posts. Emma had written a long status update, and it was going viral. Asterisk, to everyone asking about the wedding video, yes, that's my stepfather. Yes, he really did have my car repossessed during my wedding reception. What the video doesn't show is that I left him a thank you note explaining I was trying to surprise him by having his car professionally detailed as a gift. He never bothered to read it. 15 years I tried to earn his love. 15 years I called him dad when I was scared or hurt. Yesterday I learned it was all one-sided. I'm sharing this because I want other stepchildren to know they're not alone. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who hurt you most. Asterisk. The post had been shared over 3,000 times. The comments were a mixture of support for Emma and death threats against me. She's not just destroying you privately, Robert said with satisfaction. She's destroying you publicly. By tomorrow morning, everyone in this city will know exactly what kind of man you are. My phone started buzzing again. This time it was my boss calling back, probably with news about my termination. The walls were closing in from every direction, and I was starting to realize that my lawyer might be the only person left who didn't want to see me completely destroyed. But even David had sounded like he was preparing for a lost cause. I didn't answer my boss's call. Couldn't face another piece of bad news with Sarah's entire family watching me like vultures circling roadkill. Instead, I watched the phone buzz until it stopped, knowing I'd probably just witnessed the end of my 20-year career. Coward, Robert muttered. Can't even face the consequences of your own actions. That's when I snapped. You want to talk about consequences? I stood up, 15 years of suppressed resentment finally boiling over. Let's talk about Emma stealing my credit card 3 times. Let's talk about her borrowing $2,000 for her security deposit and never paying it back. Let's talk about her crashing my truck and lying about it until the insurance company called me directly. The room went silent. Margaret's face paled. You didn't know about all that, did you? I continued, my voice rising. Because Saint Emma only tells you what makes her look good. She's been bleeding me dry for years while telling me I'm not her real father whenever I try to set boundaries. That's different, Linda said weakly. She's young, she makes mistakes. Mistakes? I laughed bitterly. Taking my prescription painkillers after my surgery wasn't a mistake. Selling my tools to pay off her gambling debts wasn't a mistake. Those were choices. Calculated, deliberate choices. Uncle Robert stood up, his face red with anger. Even if that's true, and I don't believe a word of it, none of it justifies what you did yesterday. Doesn't it? I was past caring about diplomacy now. Because I'm starting to think Emma learned exactly the right lesson. Actions do have consequences. She just never expected to face any. That's when Margaret dropped the bombshell that changed everything. The car wasn't the first thing she took, she said quietly. Yesterday morning, Emma went to your safe. The room went dead silent. My safe. The fireproof box in my home office where I kept important documents, cash, and my grandfather's watch collection. What are you talking about? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Margaret's hands shook as she pulled out her phone, scrolling to a text message. She sent me this yesterday morning. Before the wedding. She was panicking about paying the photographer's balance. She showed me the screen. A text from Emma, asterisk, Grandma, I had to borrow some cash from James's safe. Just $800 for the photographer. I'll pay it back from wedding gift money, I promise. He'll never know. Asterisk. The world tilted sideways. My safe. She'd broken into my safe. Margaret, I said carefully, what's the combination to that safe? I don't know. Emma said she figured it out. I was already moving, pushing past the family tribunal toward my home office. Behind me, I could hear them following, but I didn't care. I needed to see what else was missing. The safe sat in the corner of my office, looking undisturbed. I entered the combination, Sarah's birthday, because I was sentimental fool, and opened it. Empty. Completely, utterly empty. The cash I kept for emergencies, gone. My grandfather's Rolex collection, gone. The silver dollars my father had left me, gone. Even the savings bonds I'd been keeping for my retirement, gone. How long has she known this combination? I asked, my voice deadly quiet. Margaret's silence was answer enough. I turned to face them, and whatever they saw in my expression made Robert take a step back. Get out, I said quietly. All of you. Get out of my house right now. James, Margaret started. Get out. I roared, loud enough that the reporters across the street probably heard me. She didn't just take my car. She's been robbing me blind, and you all knew. As they filed out, muttering excuses and half-hearted justifications, I was already reaching for my phone to call David back. Emma wanted to play victim. Fine. But she'd just made this a very different kind of war. The silence after Sarah's family left was deafening, broken only by the distant murmur of reporters still camped outside. I sat staring at my empty safe, doing mental calculations that made my stomach churn. The cash alone was nearly $3,000. My grandfather's watches were worth at least $15,000. The silver dollars, the bonds, Emma had stolen close to $30,000 from me over God knows how long. And they all knew. My phone rang. David calling back. James, I just got off the phone with the DA's office. They're moving forward with charges. Theft, harassment, and something called intentional infliction of emotional distress. You need to. David, she robbed my safe. Emma's been stealing from me for months, maybe years. I just discovered she took nearly $30,000 worth of cash and collectibles. The pause on the other end stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Are you certain about this? David's voice was suddenly sharp, focused. Dead certain. Her grandmother just showed me text messages where Emma admits to taking money from my safe yesterday morning. And the safe is completely cleaned out, everything valuable is gone. This changes things. Significantly. I could hear David typing furiously. If you can prove she's been systematically stealing from you, it establishes a pattern of behavior that justifies your actions. We might actually have a defense here. Through my front window, I saw another car pull up. Not a news van this time, a police cruiser. 2 officers got out and started walking toward my front door, pushing through the crowd of reporters like they owned the place. David, the police are here. Don't say a word without me present. Nothing. Tell them you need your attorney and then call me back immediately. The doorbell rang as I hung up. I opened it to find Detective Martinez, a woman I recognized from the neighborhood watch meetings, and a younger male officer whose nameplate read Chin. Mr. Morrison. I'm Detective Martinez. We need to speak with you about the incident yesterday and some additional allegations that have come to light. I need my attorney present. Sir, we're not arresting you. We just want to ask a few questions about. I need my attorney present, I repeated firmly. Detective Martinez exchanged a look with Officer Chin. Mr. Morrison, we've received reports that you've been making threats against the victim. Specifically, that you told her family you were going to make this a different kind of war. My blood ran cold. They'd been listening. Someone in Sarah's family had called the police and twisted my words, making me sound dangerous. I haven't threatened anyone. I discovered that Emma has been stealing from me, and I'm going to press charges. Sir, Officer Chin stepped forward, his hand resting casually on his utility belt. We're going to need you to come down to the station for questioning. Am I under arrest? Not at this time, but we'd appreciate your cooperation. Behind them, I could see the news cameras turning in our direction. The reporters had noticed the police presence, and I watched in horror as they started positioning themselves for the perfect shot of me being led away. This was about to become primetime entertainment. I'm calling my lawyer, I said, starting to close the door. Mr. Morrison, Detective Martinez's voice hardened, you can call your lawyer from the station. We're not asking anymore. The implication was clear. Come willingly or be arrested on camera in front of the media circus. I grabbed my keys and wallet, stepping outside into a wall of camera flashes and shouted questions. The reporters surged forward like a pack of wolves, microphones thrust toward my face. Mr. Morrison. Are you being arrested? Did you really steal from your own stepdaughter? What do you say to people calling you a monster? Detective Martinez guided me toward the police car while Officer Chin held back the media crowd. As I ducked into the back seat, I caught sight of Mrs. Henderson across the street, filming everything on her phone with obvious satisfaction. By tonight, footage of me being taken away by police would be all over social media. Emma had won. Again. The police station's fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like angry insects as I sat in the sterile interview room, waiting for David to arrive. Through the one-way mirror, I could see my own reflection, disheveled, exhausted, looking every bit like the villain the internet had painted me to be. Detective Martinez had been professional but cold, explaining that Emma had filed a formal complaint alleging years of emotional abuse and financial control. According to her statement, I'd been using money as a weapon to manipulate the family, and the wedding incident was the culmination of a pattern of psychological torture. The irony was suffocating. She'd stolen $30,000 from me, but somehow I was the financial abuser. When David finally arrived, his expression told me everything I needed to know about how bad this had gotten. He looked like a man preparing to defend the indefensible. The media situation is out of control, he said without preamble, settling into the chair across from me. CNN picked up the story. You're trending on Twitter. Someone created a change.org petition to have you arrested. What does that have to do with the actual case? Everything. The DA is under enormous public pressure to prosecute. They're treating this like a domestic violence case now. David opened his briefcase, pulling out a thick folder. But we might have a way out. Tell me about the safe again. Everything. I walked him through the discovery, the text messages, the missing items. David took notes furiously, occasionally asking for clarification about dates and values. Here's what I think happened, he said finally. Emma's been systematically stealing from you for months, maybe longer. The car incident wasn't theft, it was just the final straw that made you snap. The problem is proving the theft without looking like you're victim blaming. Through the interview room's small window, I could see the parking lot filling with news vans. My personal nightmare was becoming a media-feeding frenzy, and I was trapped at the center of it. There's something else, David continued grimly. Emma's hired Gloria Hendricks. The name hit me like a physical blow. Gloria Hendricks, the feminist attorney who specialized in high-profile abuse cases. She was ruthless, media-savvy, and had never lost a case involving family violence. She's already given 3 interviews this afternoon, David said, sliding his phone across the table. Take a look. The video showed Gloria standing outside the courthouse, perfectly composed in her signature red blazer, with Emma beside her looking fragile and traumatized. Emma's eyes were red from crying, and she kept her head down while Gloria spoke. My client has endured 15 years of financial and emotional abuse from a man who used his position as stepfather to control and manipulate her family, Gloria was saying. The wedding incident wasn't an isolated event, it was the public revelation of private cruelty that's been happening behind closed doors for years. The reporter's next question made my blood freeze. Is it true that Emma is considering a civil lawsuit? Gloria smiled like a shark scenting blood. We're exploring all legal options to ensure that Mr. Morrison faces appropriate consequences for his actions. No one should have to endure what my client has suffered. I pushed the phone back across the table, unable to watch anymore. Emma wasn't just destroying me criminally, she was setting up to take everything I owned in civil court too. David, how do we fight this? Carefully. Very carefully. Because if we come on too strong about the theft allegations, it looks like we're attacking a young woman who's already been traumatized. But if we don't address it, we have no defense against the abuse claims. Detective Martinez knocked on the door, then entered without waiting for permission. Mr. Morrison, we've finished processing the complaint. You're free to go, but don't leave town. The DA will decide about formal charges within 48 hours. As we walked toward the exit, David grabbed my arm. James, I need you to understand something. This isn't just about criminal charges anymore. Emma and Gloria are building a narrative that you're a predatory stepfather who's been systematically abusing your position. They're going to try to destroy you completely. The parking lot was a gauntlet of reporters and cameras. As we pushed through the crowd, questions pelted me like hail. Mr. Morrison, how do you respond to allegations of financial abuse? Did you really control Emma's access to money? What do you say to people calling this a pattern of domestic violence? I kept my mouth shut and my head down, but I could feel the cameras capturing every step, every expression. Tomorrow morning, my walk of shame would be broadcast to millions of people who'd already decided I was guilty. When we finally reached David's car, he turned to me with grim determination. We're going to war, James. Emma wants to paint herself as the victim. Fine. But we're going to show the world who the real thief is. As we drove away from the courthouse, I realized this was no longer about a car, or even about respect and boundaries. This was about survival. The breakthrough came at 2 a.m. on Tuesday morning, delivered by the most unlikely source imaginable, Emma's own sister Jessica. I was sitting in David's office, going through financial records for the 100th time, when his phone rang. The caller ID showed a blocked number, but something made him answer anyway. This is Jessica Morrison. The voice on speaker was shaky, nervous. Emma's sister. I need to talk to James. Now. David and I exchanged glances. Jessica, this is highly irregular. If you have information relevant to the case. Emma's in my kitchen right now, drunk off her ass, bragging about how she's going to take James for everything he's worth. Jessica's voice cracked. She's laughing about the fake pregnancy text Jake sent. She thinks it's hilarious that you believed it. My hands clenched into fists, but David motioned for me to stay quiet. There's more, Jessica continued. She's got a storage unit full of stuff she stole from you. Not just recent stuff, things going back years. Your grandfather's watches, coins, tools, even some of your clothes. She's been planning to sell it all after the lawsuit settles. David leaned forward. Jessica, why are you telling us this? A long pause. Because I've been watching the news coverage, and I remember being 7 years old when James taught me to ride a bike after my dad left. I remember him staying up all night when I had pneumonia, driving me to the hospital. Emma's rewriting history, but I remember who James really was to us. The emotion in her voice broke something open in my chest. Jessica, I said quietly, can you prove any of this? I took pictures. Of the storage unit, of Emma bragging tonight, of text messages she sent me about her long con. I can't watch her destroy someone who was more of a father to me than my biological dad ever was. David was already grabbing his coat. Where's the storage unit? 3 hours later, we stood in the harsh fluorescent lighting of secure space storage, watching a locksmith open Unit 247. Inside was a museum of my missing belongings, thousands of dollars worth of items Emma had systematically stolen over the years, neatly organized like trophies. My grandfather's watch collection sat in their original boxes. Tools I'd reported lost were arranged on shelves. Even the prescription medications that had gone missing after my surgery were there, expired but present. Jesus Christ, David whispered, taking photos of everything. This isn't petty theft. This is organized, premeditated larceny spanning multiple years. The police arrived 20 minutes later, called by David once we documented everything. Detective Martinez took one look at the storage unit and immediately called the DA's office. Mr. Morrison, she said, her tone completely different from yesterday, I owe you an apology. This changes everything. By sunrise, Emma was in custody. Gloria Hendricks withdrew as her attorney before noon. The Change.org petition demanding my arrest was replaced by 3 different petitions demanding justice for financial abuse victims, with me listed as the victim. The same reporters who'd camped outside my house for 2 days were now calling me for interviews, wanting to hear my side of the story. The internet's opinion shifted so fast it gave me whiplash. Suddenly I was the wrong stepfather who'd finally stood up to years of abuse. Sarah called me that afternoon, her voice small and broken. James, I'm so sorry. I had no idea how bad it was. Can you ever forgive me? I looked around my empty house, at the boxes still half-packed from my planned exile, at the wedding photos still scattered on the floor where I dropped them. I'll think about it, I said quietly, and hung up. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. But for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe again.